All right, let's take a look at Apple shares extending those earlier losses. You can see, oh, look at that. Now it was off just around 4%, now off just around 1%. Jared Blickery has the numbers for us. Jared, what's going on?
Yes, easy come, easy go. Let's get to those fourth quarter results. Revenue beating street estimates, coming in at $90.15 billion. That is up 8% year over year. Estimate was for lower, $88.64 billion. And then when we break this down by segment, iPhone revenue, that was a slight miss. You could almost call it in line, $42.63 billion. Street estimating $42.67 billion. That's up 9.7% year over year. Mac revenue beating handily, $11.51 billion. That's about $2 billion over the street estimate. iPad revenue coming in a bit light, $7.17 billion versus estimates of $7.81 billion. And then wearables, $9.65 billion. That's up 9.8% year over year. And that is about $1 billion higher, just a little bit less than that, than the street estimate of $8.8 billion. Now, let's take a look at service revenue. That came in at $19.19 billion, and that was less than the street estimate of $19.97 billion, still up 5% year over year. And now here's another key stat, Greater China revenue. $15.47 billion, that is lighter than the estimates of $15.65 billion. And then finally, EPS, that's $1.29 coming in versus the estimates of $1.26. So beat the street number by 3 cents. Oh, I do have a couple more numbers here. Gross margin, $38.1 billion. That beats the estimate of $37.31 billion. And then here's a miss that people might fixate on for a little bit. Cash and cash equivalents coming in at $23.65 billion. That's about $4 billion light of the estimate of $27.63 billion. Not that Apple needs any more cash on its balance sheet, but it is interesting that declined 32% year over year. So overall, Apple was already down 2% based on those Amazon results. So it's actually up a little bit since then. We'll have to see what comes on the call, guys.
And Jared, all eyes are going to be on that call. Again, I guess when you stack Apple up against some of the other tech giants, these numbers look pretty good, which is probably why the losses that we're seeing after hours aren't that significant. Again, just barely in the red, now off just around 1.5%. So bumping around just a little bit. When you take a look at that China number, obviously that was a huge focus here. International sales, that coming in a bit light, $15.47 billion. Estimate out there, Dave, was for $15.7 billion. iPhone revenue, we know that's so critical for the company. Like Jared said, that coming in just a bit light. So I think that analysts are just kind of trying to digest these numbers when you take a look at maybe some of that slowing growth there and what that could mean for the company in this very important holiday sale quarter.
You could argue you thought shares would fall bigger, being that all three areas, they were being watched here, really. iPhone demand, we saw a slight miss there. Services, a miss there. And China. So those are really the three biggest areas. And still, shares, down, but not terrible at 1.7%. There are already some comments to CNBC from Tim Cook that says they would have grown double digits if not for the strong dollar. Talked a lot about FX. Quote, the foreign exchange headwinds were over 600 basis points for the quarter. It was significant. We would have grown in double digits without foreign exchange headwinds. So again, not terrible, but certainly not what you've come to expect from Apple, and really just reflects a larger bad macro environment for all of big tech at this juncture.
It does. It certainly does. Really highlights the strong dollar, what that's doing here for so many multinational companies. When you take a look, though, of the fact that Apple did report that its active install base of devices reaching an all-time high, their CFO making some comments saying that the strength of our ecosystem, unmatched customer loyalty, record sales, spurring that number to get devices to that new all-time high. But again, not enough here. When you take a look at that iPhone number, shares off just around 1% in after hours.